The U.S. Senate is gearing up for a potentially heated confirmation hearing for the new defense secretary. Chuck Hagel's candidacy is widely viewed as President Obama's most controversial pick for a key post during his presidency. The decorated war veteran's stance of seeing military forces as a last resort and pro-Israeli foreign policy has attracted both admiration and criticism, but the latter has been far more vocal. RT's Gayane Chichyakyan reports.
Chuck Hagel has been under attack since his name was floated as President Obama's pick for the defense secretary position. You would see attack ads on all major U.S. TV channels saying what a terrible defense secretary Chuck Hagel would be. All throughout December and much of January, they've been running these ads, between commercials of beauty products, prescription drugs, and whatnot. So somewhere between those, you could catch attack ads like this one.
Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel? President Obama says he supports sanctions on Iran. Hagel voted against them. Hagel voted against labeling Iran's Revolutionary Guard a terrorist group. And while President Obama says all options are on the table for preventing a nuclear Iran, Hagel says military action is not a viable, feasible, responsible option. President Obama, for Secretary of Defense, Chuck Hagel is not a responsible option.
That ad was sponsored by the Emergency Committee for Israel. So what did Chuck Hagel do to deserve that? As a U.S. Senator, Chuck Hagel has been critical of Israel's policies. He's been critical of the Israeli lobby in Washington. Here's what he said. The political reality is that the Jewish lobby intimidates a lot of people up here. I've always argued against some of the dumb things they do because I don't think it's in the interest of Israel. I just don't think it's smart for Israel. End of quote. Among other things, Chuck Hagel dared to say that U.S. interests should trump Israeli interests if they conflict. He supported direct negotiations with Iran, and unlike many other politicians here in Washington who keep repeating the all options on the table mantra, at least publicly they say that, Chuck Hagel has been straightforward in saying a strike on Iran should not be an option. He has also been a proponent of a more even-handed U.S. policy with regards to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and the U.S. has been anything but even-handed on the issue. It's also for statements like this one that he's been under attack. Take a look. This is Chuck Hagel in 2006.
The United States will remain committed to defending Israel. Our relationship with Israel is a special and historic one, but it need not and cannot be at the expense of our Arab and Muslim relationships. That is an irresponsible and dangerous false choice.
Some saw President Obama's decision to nominate Chuck Hagel as his message to the Israeli hardliners. We actually heard President Obama say there's too much war talk going on, and maybe nominating Chuck Hagel is his way of bringing down the tension a notch. Not everybody here in Washington likes that message, but what's interesting, since the beginning of the attack campaign against Chuck Hagel over these 2 months or so, many of the attackers have sort of withdrawn their objections over Chuck Hagel's nomination. Some say it could be because they received assurances behind closed doors that, as Defense Secretary, Chuck Hagel is not going to make any drastic moves to really challenge Washington's foreign policy orthodoxies.